I'm going to welcome next a fireside chat on the topic of unleashing the power of stock options. So lessons from Baltic unicorns. Then I'm going to invite to the stage, we already have here, Kaisa Luht, Global Reward Lead at Salto X, and Ragnar Saas, also co-founder and CEO of Salto X. So welcome.
Okay, I don't know. I have never talked like that. Have you?
No, this is really cool, like sci-fi almost.
No, this is weird. Come on, let me be honest. This is layered. I'm like this Matrix movie.
I love it.
Okay, but we literally yesterday got call like 4:30 that we need to be here because something changed in the schedule. And the background, guys, is that I am basically co-founder. I have done quite much things before Salto X, so I'm co-founder of Pipedrive, which is an Estonian unicorn, US HQ. We exited 2 years ago. We built like quite big team globally. And I think that my focus was really how to build a team, how to be sure that you can get the best talent. And this is why basically here. And also I've been investing to 50 companies as an angel investor, helping them also to basically get the things off the ground. I helped Verif to basically hire one of the best people, for example, and many others. So this is my background, and today we are focusing what we have learned on this unicorn journey. And maybe about your background first.
Yes, hello everyone, also from me. Before Salto X, I worked in Wise for 7 years. And for most of that time, I was dealing with their options. I took care of everything options related. We did secondary sales. I did a lot of education for employees, as well as team leads and recruiters. And yeah, stock options is basically my bread and butter. Maybe I should also add that right before this event, we were on a side event where we got to talk about options already quite a lot, and we were discussing how to set up a motivational share option plan. Yeah. And the main takeaway from that was that for options to be motivational, you have to communicate them well to your employees, because if employees don't understand anything about options, then as a motivational tool or a retention tool, they just don't work.
But in overall, what we agreed when we prepared for these talks, that we had to be heavily practical to cover like four kind of different topics here at least, so you can get some practical takeaways from our basically experience, because I believe that let's start from the zero, things that I strongly believe one of the key elements why Estonia is so successful building more and more tech unicorns was the fact that Skype helped to build the ecosystem. But Skype had, in DNA, immediately give out stock options back in 2005. So come on, this is like how much? 18 years ago. And this made a baseline in Estonia from that time that this is a market standard. In Silicon Valley, it has been longer. But let me be frank that in Europe, many areas, it's not common. I believe there are still unicorns, even in Eastern Europe, which haven't pushed this heavily. But it's totally different in Silicon Valley, in Estonia, London, Berlin. So if you're going to hire there, you just cannot hire top talent without stock options. So that's kind of market standard. But I believe that let's first go to because we agreed that let's give very practical examples. Mm-hmm. How basically this makes really difference. And let's just imagine that I assume that here are mainly founders, and I assume there are more like early stage. Is it? I guess so. The point is that if you're early stage company, the one thing what you just have limited is your cash. And in our case, when we had Pipedrive early days, so we had basically, we was hiring top talent, and some of them came from Skype. But the challenge that we faced is Skype had already, huge salaries. So already 10 plus years ago, you can earn 4 or 5K net monthly. If you are basically early stage company, you maybe have 20, 30, whatever, $500,000 monthly revenue, you just cannot give your talent so much salary. So what you do, you just don't hire top talent? No, you will need to find a way how to match basically the pay for the person, including stock options. And maybe the example which I will use here is that I think that it was 2013 exactly. Pipedrive had like 2 million round, or we was in the range of closing that, when we understood we need to hire someone who could help to scale our tech team. So we look all of the leads through, because we had great team, 5 co-founders, 2 technical. I was kind of like between marketing and technical, and then 2 guys who know everything about product and sale. And we reached somebody in Skype who was literally, I think that in Estonia, one of the most important guys, because he was head of Skype for Microsoft. Background is Microsoft bought Skype, so this need to be work. And this guy had crazy salary, and we sit down and was like, damn, we can't hire him. But we was just focusing how to give him so good stock option package, which would give him strong beliefs that his salary and pay would be much more in the longest cycle. So the guy was Sergei Anikin, and the story was he had other offer as well, from Wise, by the way. So we was competing who could get him. But we literally spent 3-4 months to talking and offering back and forward. Indeed, he needed to understand the product, would he want to work, but he was a very practical guy about pay as well. And with back and forward, we was giving him very meaningful amount, because we just had fundraising. So we could say, hey, I'm just giving you example because I cannot give exact that. We give you, let's say, 0.5% of the company through the stock options, which value was, let's say, X at that moment. And we believe that it would grow. So using stock options, we actually managed to get him to board, and he stayed in company like 8 years. Moved, even had, actually he was longer in companies than me, like daily activities. So this is the examples that someone who was headhunted by Wise and who could, he later on, by the way, and also very important, he was so important guy that he got offers after 3 to 6 months from competitors. But he had so motivational stock option package, and he saw how company is growing, that it kept him 8 years. And with just using salary, it would not be possible. So first was how to get him. And second, how to keep him in the company. And indeed, you need to have a great management, you need to have a great values, also. But motivational and financial intensive is important.
You've talked now how options can work really well. Would you also have examples on how it didn't work so well in Pipedrive?
Yeah, I think that the other part is that what exactly we wanted to cover is kind of what's the common mistakes, and what we maybe don't immediately understand or pay attention is that stock options is a difficult topic. You would okay, in our case, I think that in Pipedrive case, 80 or 90% of the people didn't had experience with stock options, and we needed to explain them, but there was definitely some parts which I believe we failed totally, and you will have better example now what you did better in Wise. But what we basically understood one moment that educational part was actually not so good, I was basically imagining. And in the levels that we had one super amazing recruiter, and one moment she wanted to leave the company because she was already, I think, 4 or 5 years, and she reached out to me personally because I built a very strong relationship with many people who worked in Pipedrive. And she was like, I'm leaving Pipedrive and I'm wondering, should I buy out my stock options? I was blown away. Sorry. You hired 100 people to Pipedrive, and you don't know, should you buy them out? It's like, oh my God. So the mistake what we did is that even though top management and founders did know how good is that, we didn't educated enough people who literally made offers and hired people. And that was like, damn. And not only that, this was the one mistake that, because Pipedrive officially had US HQ and there was lots of this compliance and legal limiting, but we also understood that some rules what we made was too harsh. And the other example of the mistake I still feel very bad about we made is that we pushed too short exercise time. If someone leaves company, so they literally needed to, I think that it was like around 3-4 weeks even in our case, but they needed to buy them out. And some part of these people actually didn't have literally tens of thousands to buy up out stock options and pay the tax to the Estonian government, because some cases you need to pay. So we was like, oh my God, we built a great basically system, but some rules was not basically friendly for the end receivers. But how was wise? Because I think that what is important is that Pipedrive CRM, Saas, like quite standard. You don't have so much like pressure from regulators. But how wise basically did those basically to being sure that you will not repeat the mistakes what we did?
Yeah, so I absolutely love talking about my experience in WISE because, well, first of all, I worked there for a very long time and I'll always be a WISER partly in my heart. But also we were very employee friendly in everything that we did, and we really wanted to give the best out of everything that we offered to them. And that also made us realize that if we want the employees to get the full value out of the stock options that we were offering, then the employees actually need to understand what it means to have those options, how those options work legally as well as tax-wise, and what are the steps that they need to take while being an employee in WISE, as well as after leaving. So we did extensive training sessions already from the moment that they joined the company. We had a half an hour onboarding session with them. I did training for recruiters so that they would know how to explain the value of options, going as far as telling the recruiters how to do country-specific hiring and how to approach talking about options in that specific country. Because as we know, in some countries like the US and London and a few other countries, options are really well known and employees expect them and they know what they usually are. But there's other countries, let's take like Singapore, where options are a completely new concept. They're not used to it. So employees require more attention and they need to get on board with the idea that there's a possibility that I will become an owner and this is amazing and that's why I want to contribute more to the company. So we put a lot of effort into making sure that the employees understand the terms, and in addition to making sure that they understand what was going on, we also made sure that the terms were employee friendly. As Ragnar mentioned, that in Pipedrive the exercise periods were really short. Then in WISE we made sure that all the newer contracts at least had the possibility of keeping options for good leavers for as long as needed, even after the employee left. And they could exercise them when they had the liquidity event, like a secondary sale or now an IPO, and they didn't have to pay taxes on them before. They could just keep them as options. And the reason also why I'm here on this stage is that I really believe in options as a tool, and I'm hoping that this will become an industry standard, how to treat them, and also to create more trust in them in general.
Because exactly the point is that we have been focusing in Salto X now last basically more than a year already how to simplify all of that, and how to educate the market and also build a platform behind of that. But I'm still blown away that we, 3 days ago, Martin Villig, co-founder of Bolt, basically published something in LinkedIn that he republished our post, and I was blown away how there was, some people had harsh criticism about stock options. Even somebody said, come on, it's a kind of fraud, and it's already proven like last 15 years. And the challenge is that we need to still understand stock options are risky. Every startup is risky, by the way. So you can explain them, but if there are huge pressure from the founders or VCs to make non-employment friendly stock options, that they are not giving any value, then it keeps so many disappointed people. And clearly, sadly, quite meaningful amount of startups are failing, and now basically evaluations are going down. So if you don't address those things, you will have so many unhappy people. And that's exactly why some people believe that oh my God, you should not accept them, you should not get them. But it most likely depends country by country. Like in Estonia, there is no question. But I especially looked who was who was writing harsh criticism. It was from Finland, so it was quite meaningful. Sorry to say, Russian speaking from who left in Moscow like few years ago. So clearly, like in the markets where stock options haven't delivered good examples, people don't believe them. And that was exactly the thing, because now, as we basically starting to move into we have like last 5 minutes, what is important to understand that you can do many things. You can set it up right. You can do education. You can educate the people. You can remind people. But there is still one magic moment with stock options. The magic moments is when they can sell. Basically, they can turn stock options to real shares and they can sell them. And that's something which many founders don't realize, that if you're setting it up, you understand that in the future, after A round, you need to think at least once per year doing secondary sales. And those are happening even now, literally. This week, one of the Estonian startups, which is, I think, that have fundraised A or B round, I don't remember exactly, had employee was selling some part of his stock options and found immediately basically the buyer, and company helped to do all the legal things. And you, as a founder or somebody, basically management member or CEO, your interest is the more company grows to show that this has a value. And if people receive money on the bank account, then they're like, oh my God, this is real. And the good news is that when we started Pipedrive, it took us 5 years before we had first secondary sale. Now, even now, let's forget this what happened like whatever 12 months ago. Even these new conditions, when valuations go down, secondary deals are happening. In the Estonia, there are at least 3 funds, VC funds, who has from LPs green light to do secondary sales. Not only primaries, but go and buy and do whatever, pooling it together, building up at least 100, maybe 500,000, secondary sales transaction from different people. And this is something which the more company grows, you need to think about. Because exactly, it's common that somebody who has worked 3+ years in company, maybe she wanna buy apartment and take a down payment. So this is standard that I think that in B rounds usually now, at least recently, there was some portion of secondary sales, but if you don't fundraise, you still need to think about that. And you had even experienced that the more you grow, the more secondary sales is complex, isn't it?
Absolutely, because the more you grow, the more people you have participating in the sale, and the more of a beast it becomes. But just to add to what you just said, that I also saw in Wise that with secondary sales, the belief in the instrument of options grew a lot. So as soon as you do the first secondary sale, something clicks in people's heads. And it's not just the people who get to participate in it, because in the beginning you might have just a few hundred people who have vested shares and can participate, but others also see that it delivers real value, and we can trust this company, and hopefully in the future there will be more secondary sales, and we can also sell, and the company doesn't have to be sold off for that reason, Yeah, so this magic moment of secondary sales really becomes important in, I would say, in the 4th or 5th year, because it's so only that long that you can get away with communicating how amazing options are. You can do it in the first few years because everyone understands that the company is just starting out and there's other priorities, but once you get to 4 or 5 years and people have vested shares, then you need to start thinking about doing secondary sales.
Yeah, and if important is even basically the economical thing is a little bit changing. All Estonian unicorns are hiring aggressively. And believe me, they're always looking from early stage startups and so on, who's the top talent. And they go and head down the people still actively. Like, but for some reason, I think that at least I believe many Baltic startups are very good and effective regarding finance. Bolt, I believe, is still hiring few hundred people. Wise is hiring, Pipedrive and Verif as well. So the best people are actually, come on, you should hire people, only best people indeed. They receive other offers. And you need to be sure that beside many other things, they have basically strong motivation to stay in the company longer. And stock option is one of the strongest things which helps to keep retention and top talent in the company. So that's the thing. So we are a little bit out of time,
Yes.
Totally out of time.
But we are still here to network if you have any questions.
So if you have questions, you can, I don't know how this technically works. Can we have questions? If anyone has questions, I don't know how this works, but...
they can come to us.
Okay, so see, Anteling, do we have any questions? If not, because it's super complicated topic, we are around, and you can go our basically on the Facebook and LinkedIn and webpage, because this is topics which, if you have questions, raise hands, because we have a microphone here. Okay, so just, exactly, you can find us here. You can ask more questions than specific things, because our mission is, and we keep educating the market and helping to do, so that you can set it up. We have also now basically one of the ways that if there are very early stage founders, we help to set it up in the cheapest way. So you have basic things covered with just 99 euros. So yeah, but otherwise, catch us here. And thank you for taking time to focus on a complicated topic. Thank you.
You.